Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
If anybody in the back would like to be a little closer, I feel like I'm in a stadium and I have to yell all the way back there. Welcome, welcome.
Anyone? People are, we're looking for people. No, I mean, you guys sit down on your leg. Thank you. Oh, why? And now we know why.
Thank you, Sherry. Patty, why don't you come up here and you can take pictures of Joyce. Yeah, she won't be so far away. I'll let you sit next to Courtney.
Hey, this is nice. You're real close.
I know. Thank you. Yeah. I can even scoot back a little bit.
No, go.
There we go.
It's almost like cuddling up with you.
Okay, good. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
How are you enjoying the Olympics?
Yeah, Turkey, yay!
My heart goes out to the 15-year-old.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so interesting. I woke up and looked at it and I thought, there are more ways to come down the mountain than I've ever known. You can be on a bobsled, you can be on skis, you can, all these ways to come down the mountain. My only way was to fall down. It's a silly story, but we were up, have any of you ever slid on a piece of plastic on the snow? It really goes,
Yes.
We were doing this all day, and so we were up in my husband's cabin, and his mom had a cabin up somewhere up in the hills, and we'd been doing that all day, and I was going to do it one more time, and all of a sudden his family that I didn't know appeared. I looked like a drowned rat. I had been doing all this stuff, and sliding up and down that mountain, and so this one woman said, "Oh, I'm so glad to meet you. Won't you come in?" Her cabin was up the hill. I went in, everybody was dressed, just so. They were sitting there sipping champagne with a fire crackling. I looked like a drowned rat. It was starting to snow. I've got to get back down the mountain because before it gets really snowy. And I go out there, and I don't know whether Mel and Sean are here, but notice. So I get out there, and I jump on that little sled thing, and it started going, and I'm screaming, and my husband is screaming, roll off. And I thought, I don't want to roll off, it's muddy and slushy. And I look, and there ahead of me was a mud crowd, just a pile of mud. And it was the closest thing before I was going over the bank.
Oh, wow.
And I looked up, and this woman goes, "Hi, nice to meet you." And I said some very unnice things, and I slammed into that pile of mud.
Oh,
and while I was watching the Olympics, I thought, oh, look, there's a good way to go down there. You don't have to yell and scream, you just, do it like you're supposed to. So I've been reliving my mud and snow days.
Oh, and the buttons came off your...
Yeah, so all the buttons came off because I have like a raincoat, so as I'm sliding into the mud, the buttons are popping off. It was not pretty. So anyway, that's my how Dottie comes down the mountain. But I think
you got there.
Yeah, I got home in August. Yeah, that's all that counts. Well, welcome to the Center for Creative Living, and we're so glad to have you all here. This is such a wonderful group, and I'm sure we're here to hear our exciting speaker.
Yay!
Reverend Joyce C. is just an amazing speaker, and we are always so glad to have her here. But before we do that, I'd like to invite our guest. But before I invite our guest, I'd like to invite, I won't see it. There she is, Gabrielle. I'm sorry, I was looking around for you and didn't know that you were semi-behind me. Gabrielle is the executive director here at this wonderful Billy DeFrank Center. We're not battling, we're just acknowledging you. And she has something to tell us before we start, okay? What's the blue tape? What?
Actually, we are 100% volunteer run at the Billy DeFrank Center, and I'm the board president. And we are so happy that you are here. One of the things that we are doing is we are working with San Jose State University's anthropology department to look at how can the queer community be prepared for disasters, because disaster preparedness is actually done with the census. And we are not really part of the census, and many of the LGBTQ plus community do not even acknowledge who they are, especially if it's a government, census thing. And this last census didn't even ask that many questions for us to have the option. So what they have done in the past, they have worked with Japantown, and they have a Japantown prepared team that's been working for a number of years with San Jose State University, and we are pairing up together. And for Drag Queen Bingo, we already started doing the things that were suggested. So Japantown Prepared has a former firefighter. So he went through the Billy DeFrank Center with a fine-tooth comb. And we actually passed with flying colors except for shelves that are not bolted to the wall yet. And so what I did for us is we have blue tape on the floor, and the fire department needs that to be free of people, so that even when there's a small number of people and there's an earthquake or a fire, it creates chaos. So that lane is the width of the double door. That's how we know that the lane has to be that far away. It gives you an opportunity to run out the door. The doors push open, the gate is open, and then we will start having drills once we get beyond making the building disaster prepared.
Oh. Yeah, one more time, Gabrielle. Tell us about the food.
Okay. I oversee our vintage senior program, and many of our seniors are food sensitive. They don't have enough food. And I was posting on Facebook because I was actually gathering food and buying food for our seniors. And I posted it on Facebook, and this gay guy who goes to Trader Joe's to pick up food for homeless shelter, he saw it and asked if I wanted him to bring food on Sundays. And so he does. And what I do is I collect all the food that our vintage program people need, and whatever is left over, I bring here and put on the table for you to take, since some of you are of the age.
Oh, no. Oh, no, say it isn't so.
And if you feel older than you are, you're still free to take the food.
Thank you so much, everyone. Anybody else have an announcement that they would like to make? Yes, Chris.
Yeah, last night Rebecca started preparing food. It's over here. Cheesecake without cheese. Plant-based cheese day.
Oh, wow.
Vegan.
Wow.
So yeah, she finished it this morning. It's fresh.
Wow. Thank you. Hey, if it's as good as those muffins, it's delicious. I'm all excited. Yes, Mel.
Some of you may have already heard, but after 15 years in our house,
our landlords decided to sell.
Oh.
So we have, well, now 7 weeks to get out.
Oh, man.
And we don't have any prospects yet. We're going to look at a barn after church.
A barn?
A barn.
Oh,
Yeah.
that might be fun.
So it might be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody has any suggestions or any leads, I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I lived in a barn for years, but, yeah.
I've been accused of it.
Yeah, it was, yes.
I just that we all, this is a very challenging thing for Sean and Mel. Sean had a little room for his healing behind. There was a hot tub for Mel to come home from work and recover. And the fact they're losing it is just really traumatic. So I ask us all to put him in your prayers.
Yes.
And we hope to continue that they find a perfect place.
Yes.
Well, let's just do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'd like everybody to just take a deep breath and close your eyes. And visualize a house that not only is a house, but it also has a separate unit for a healing room. And it's a place that's got trees around it. It has love in the foundation and in the walls. It's a home, not just a house. And it's a home for our wonderful Mel and Sean. And it's ready to be looked at, and it's ready to be rented with a possibility of being sold. And so it is.
So it is.
And just take a nice deep breath and release that. Okay. Thank you. Hi there. We have a very wonderful guest, and I don't know how many of you know the Reverend Ronnie Grigsby, but Ronnie! Thank you so much for being here. It's so wonderful. And every time he shows up, of course, we want him to sing. So I found out that Ronnie and Janet spent a night together. And no matter what you might think they were doing,
My husband and her wife know all about it.
I'm spoiled. But what I want you to know that they spent this time coming up with a song for today. So please, you ready? Could you just sneak up here and sing for us, do you think?
What do you think, Mr. Ronnie?
I was going to wait until the end of service, and I thought, I can't wait that long. Is that a new drum?
Oh, that's my drum that was made many years ago.
How do you?
All right, we just invite you to take a nice deep breath and just take in the loving energy that this song was created with all of you. Community lives in the heart of the Spirit, and Spirit gives its light to us all. We can breathe in the heart of each day, weaving a way for us all to come home. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that is there all the time. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that was there all love that cradles us all in its streets. With every step we walk on the path of each other's journey with hope that will last. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that is there all the time. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that was there all along. Unity lives in the heart of the Spirit, and Spirit gives its light to us all. We can breathe in to the heart of each day. We're weaving a way for us all to come home. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that is there all the time. Open all that's within and around. Find your peace that was there all along. All along, all along, all along, all
Give me a yay.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Rosamond. How many of you find it hard to feel at peace within you with all things that are going?
Sometimes.
Today, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. So every time you think, but there will never be peace, stop and say, there will be peace because it starts with me. That's right. Yeah, just you be peaceful. It's kind of like dropping a little stone into the lake. And those peace ripples. But it has to start with the little stone making ripples. And that's you. You can make ripples of peace whenever you feel like it, whenever you want to. Thank you so very much. The other very important announcement is we have coffee for people afterwards, that you can grab a piece of cheesecake and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Rebecca. I was just so excited about this. And the coffee is in the back, and we request, do not fill your cup to the brim. We do not want to spill coffee on the floor, okay? Because it gets kind of slippery and icky if you do that, so please.
And I don't want to.
Well, today's speaker, many of you have met her before. Joyce C. is just an amazing speaker. More than that, she's an amazing woman. She's been through a lot in her life, and quite often she shares not only her stories, but also her life. And sometimes she even talks about her father, who it always impresses me when she talks about her dad. And so I want you to please recognize this amazing woman, Reverend Joyce C. Your speech, I don't know why you never look at it, but it came.
Security, it's security.
Right now, I want everybody to send Joyce love. She has a problem with her leg, and so we want you to all send her love and healing. And I'm going to move out of your way, okay?
Yeah.
You move this just a little bit that way, I'll move this just a little bit.
I bring the copies to build my confidence.
Holding them in your hand, okay. I think anybody who's ever given a talk will realize that. And Ed, I was kind of scooting out of the way. Does that work for you? Okay, good. So you can just picture Joyce in the frame.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was born in June 7th, 1949.
You don't look it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm working it. I was told that there was a tornado and that the sky had turned black, pouring rain. I and my mother was in labor. My oldest sister was in attendance. My father went outside in the tornadoes, pouring rain, got into the Model T that went to find the midwife, Ruth lady. He found her, came back. I came into the world, and they said, you didn't cry. I said, I didn't cry. They said, you didn't cry. I said, okay. Maybe I was stunned.
Oh, no, look where I am.
Totally surprised. And I didn't cry. They told me that after I was born, the clouds lifted, the sun came up. No more tornado. And when you hear things like this, you often wonder if maybe your daddy is making it up. Because he was always telling stories. And one day he decided to tell me this one. And I just stared at him and I said, as usual, sure enough, Daddy. He said, yeah, sure enough. Which told me it was true. How I came into being. And it's been an interesting ride ever since. It hasn't let up. That too.
She knows.
Yes.
Don't know.
When we go on the journey to find ourselves, we are doing this, we like to think from a conscious state of being. But many times we're not conscious at all. We're following what we've been told or should be, but what isn't. But when you stand back and begin to take a look at yourself in terms of what you are doing in relationship to the world that you're living in, the odds are you're not being conscious. You're repeating what you've learned makes sense or works or is accepted. I was not your typical child, apparently, because I was always wanting to know things. And then they would always want to know what was wrong with me because I asked questions. I still ask questions. I ask them of myself. I will ask them of anyone that I know well enough to ask questions. Because many times what someone is saying on this side of the room is not what they're doing on that side of the room. And in the middle, I'm confused, wanting to know what are they doing, what are they saying, and why are they saying what they're saying, and why are they doing what they're doing. We live life in this cycle of not doing the thing that we truly feel because many times we want to be accepted or to have approval. And all of these kinds of things will take us off our path. So to become conscious then is to trust your own inner intuition. When you are having a really solid inner intuition that is working with you about who you are, this is not about harming others or taking advantage or harming yourself. This is not what consciousness is. Consciousness is reality. But whose reality are you following is the question. So picture this. There I am, this little black girl. And my father tells me one day that I've shared this with you before. He told me not to ever bow my neck so someone could put their foot on it. That was a very amazing thing to tell me. I think I was somewhere between 8 and 12, standing in the yard of a farmhouse in Mississippi. And I just stared at him. And he wanted to know, and he said it again. And I said, okay, Daddy. And he said, well then. My father never bowed his neck. Not that I can recall, no matter what he was facing. He would turn away because he knew if he kept looking at the police, they were going to shoot him. This is true. If he's talking to the white fellow that owned the land that we were working on, you knew not to look him directly in the eye, but you looked to the side. But I never saw him bow his neck. So I went through life not bowing my neck, so you can imagine the problems I ran into. Because I would look at someone and want to know what they were talking about and how did that relate to me. So I ran into teachers and administrators. I ran into all number of people who wanted to deny me, not because I had done something, but because I was a black person. So that's a whole nother consciousness. Dealing with nationalities, dealing with all manner of things. That is another consciousness that we have to figure out how to work it. And when we can work it, it works. You can be who you are and have your strength and look someone in the eye without them feeling intimidated. It takes practice. It takes confidence in yourself and knowing that the person that you're talking to may be feeling a little uneasy. Because if you don't look down when you're talking to certain individuals, they become nervous. People do. It can be in a grocery market, you could be talking to a checker, you could be talking to someone anywhere at all doing service. When you're looking them straight in the eye, it doesn't always go well because they're not accustomed to it coming from me. So what is my consciousness? My consciousness says to me, then I say, how are you today? And they say, oh, I'm fine. I said, good. I said, I'm having a bit of a rough one. I said, but I'm going to be fine too. Thank you for telling me you're fine today. Now this person feels okay. Imagine that. But I did not bow my neck. But I did use words that helped to make things a little bit more gentle. I also use just conversation, that I really am a person here. That I am not someone who is a threat to you. I am not someone that you have to somehow feel afraid of me. I am not someone who came into this room to do something other than what I am doing. Consciousness says when we practice following a path that works for us, it will work for others. It's not a one-way thing. It never has been. So one of the greatest teachers in my life, his name was and still is in my heart and soul, Joseph Levi Thomas Brown. Amazing man. I saw him do things that other men didn't do. I saw people come to him of all races to talk to him. I saw this. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, what is it about him that these individuals feel this comfortable? He was an amazing teacher for a man who only went to 3rd grade. He had a gift of helping someone calm down instead of feeling they need to tighten up. My father was about 6'4", about 240 pounds, physically fit, farm man who knew horses and land and other things. So he wasn't a small man. He was a big man who never bowed his neck.
Mm-hmm.
So when you figure out how to go through life and hold yourself upright, you are living in a form of consciousness that is correct for you, but does not offend anyone else. You're not being yourself. You're not being strong. You have to be really careful that you don't overprice strong, because someone else may find that you are now being aggressive. But finesse and class, that works very well. You see? So when you're coming into realities, and consciousness is one of the greatest realities there is. And when you find that what works for you and you keep repeating it, you will find that your day goes really well. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. One of these days, someone is going to want to get into your space. And all you're doing is just buying a cup of coffee. Well, in my case, it's hot chocolate. We might as well tell the truth about that. And maybe a scone. Thank you. I'm telling you right now, we're talking serious stuff. But someone will want to get into your space. So what do? You have to remember who you are from the inside. You cannot go that this person is doing this because I'm female, or because of a race, or because I have a disability. You don't know when someone is going to push, or when something has caused someone to feel uncomfortable. You don't know. But what you can know is who you are and how you handle yourself. That's the key. All of us in this room are uniquely different. So we're going to handle things uniquely different. But the way that you do this is based on what you have taught yourself. How you approach someone. When you approach someone that is a person standing there who doesn't know you, you do have an advantage. Well, you know you. And you know that you can look at someone and simply say, good morning. I've had the grumpiest people look at me and say, oh, hi, good morning. And I said, well, how's it going? They say, oh, it's going. I said, one of those days, oh, yes. Next thing you know, I'm walking beside this person, they're talking to me, telling me about why they're having a bad day. When before, I could see in their eyes they didn't quite know what was going to happen. Misconceptions run deep when we're not aware or feeling secure about who we are as a conscious being. So basically, consciousness is its own reality. It is a truth. It is who you feel that you are. It is what you practice on a daily basis. You do not practice it when you decide that you're going to the market. That's the only time you do consciousness. You do it when you answer the phone. You answer the phone. You're being conscious. You're going down to collect your recycle cans with everybody else and you meet a neighbor. You're being conscious. You're going for a walk. You're going to the bank, market. You still are in your conscious state. You don't turn it on and off. When I'm in my home, I'm conscious. This is my home. This is where I live. This is where I work. This is where I use the phone. This is when I greet someone at the door. This is my home. It's not a place where I've gone in and locked myself down. So when you are practicing it, and you keep practicing it, when you go out into public, it's easy to engage and to build a bridge and to communicate with someone that you may not have communicated with before. And it just helps it to be easier. And when you see them again, they will come over to you and say something. I kept running into this lady at the market. And every time I saw her, she said, "Oh, there you are again." I said, "Yeah, and there you are again." And then she pushed the basket beside mine and we were shopping. And it was all about just exchanging. She said, "You look familiar." I said, "There's a woman in town that everybody thinks I'm her, and her name is Carolyn." And I said, "My middle name used to be Carolyn, but I changed it back to the big C." Then she wanted to know about the big C. So I told her about the big C. I said, "My name is Joyce C. Brown." But it was Joyce Carolyn Brown, but it's not real. And she said, "Oh." And I said, "This other lady is an African-American lady." She said, "Yes, I know her. We went to a group together." At first she thought it was her. And so people see me and they think that I am this lady that I have never met. It's an amazing experience. Apparently she wears her hair short now. There you go. I used to have locks. She had locks. I had my hair permed, the process. She had hers. I said, "Okay, this is just going too far." And she works up at the university where I used to work. Okay, now there is coincidence. There is doppelgangers. And there is, you look like somebody I know. But then people get a closer look and they say, "No." I said, "There's something." I said, "Same kind of body and everything." And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, now we're talking." And guess what happens? They said, "But there's still something." I said, "I understand. It's not me, and I'm not her. But I am Joyce C. Brown." Mm-hmm. And this is how sometimes being in your consciousness works for you. You don't find yourself being flipped around like a tortoise on its back. You don't find yourself trying to avoid looking at people because you don't know what they're going to say. I cannot live that way. I live in Santa Cruz, California. There you go. So I cannot be walking around pretending I do not see people or people do not see me. But I do know who I am, and I'm comfortable with who I am. So that works for me really well, just being myself. We are all history. I know we don't always walk around thinking that we're history, but we are. We're all history. From parents to our birth, up until time we leave, we're still history even after we leave the planet. Ancestors, everybody, we are history. You see? So when we left Mississippi, a history place to say the least, excuse me, and came to Santa Barbara, California, one swoop, there. No in between. None. We didn't go by way of Chicago, Detroit, Michigan. From there to there. That was a surprise. Total surprise. I was used to being around only blacks. The only whites I saw was the plantation owner and the doctors in town. Thank you. So I come to Santa Barbara and I'm sitting. Oh, thank you.
Okay, try here.
So I come to Santa Barbara and I am in this whole world. There are blacks there, there are Hispanic there, and I'm there. And my whole family, all 12 of us, have migrated to Santa Barbara, California, and it was an amazing journey. I found that I was fascinated. And I found that every day I had to remember my father's teaching about keeping my head up, because I was challenged. I was challenged by everybody. You know, so I said, well, white folks, I said, no, black folks, Hispanic folks, everybody. I was being challenged because I sounded different. And I ate different. Okay? I brought my own food. We did that in Mississippi. I saw no reason not to do it in Santa Barbara. So I got up in the morning and made my sausage sandwiches and things like that, took them to school. They said, what's that? I said, it's a sausage sandwich. No one could get into it. Sausage I said, yeah. And you're not going to have a hamburger? I thought it looked like shoe leather to me. Little things like this and this hard stuff. And I said, you're going to eat that? And they said, yes. I said, I'll eat that. It looks like shoe leather. A hamburger we made was like that. It was a meal. Right? It wasn't this. I've learned a lot about being aware and being conscious. And I've learned a lot about what is omitted from history. We're going through something called Black History Month. And I'm prone to say that I'm black every day. So I don't
I
just...
know what you mean.
You think? I don't just do it for February. But then again, I've learned to behave a little bit. Maybe. I have learned. The reason why I brought this up at this point, because it is also consciousness. It is also about being aware and being conscious of who you are in the midst of changes happening all the time. It's also about being aware that my history is very rich with amazing individuals that we do not hear about sometimes during Black History Month. We hear about the familiar. And so, before I just eat up this clock, see these? These are called Black Science. I've had them for a number of years. You can buy them. In these, you will find all about amazing inventors, like a black fellow invented the stoplight. Do you ever hear about him? No? There was another fellow who invented a shoemaking machine, turning out thousands of shoes. Never hear about him. Another fellow worked with Edison, and Edison wanted his patents and he wouldn't let him have them, so they had a lawsuit. But you don't hear about him. And how about the fellow that had a lot to do with computers? Don't hear about him. But I can hear about some certain athletes and things like that, which is fine. But what I'm not hearing about is the individuals who were doing things in the 1700s and the 1800s, while many of our ancestors as black folks were still in slavery, and they were creating, designing things for trains, refrigeration, light bulbs. A black woman came up with cataract surgery. You don't hear about her. But we go to the doctors to get that. See, this is also Black history. And I just wanted to let you know that if you want to get something to just look at it for yourself, just look up Black Science on the internet. It's there. All kinds of interesting things. And one of the things that I do know about Black history is that it had longevity. It was happening when you didn't know it was happening. I didn't know it was happening. A lot of people didn't know it was happening. And it's still happening. There is still creation, there's still invention, there's still design, but we still don't hear about it. What we hear about is the thing that keeps everything in a loop of its own pain and its own hurt. All these things were done. All these things were done. Yes, they were. But what about the other things that are being done? What about the other things that are being done that are never talked about? That's also a part of Black history. We have amazing writers, and we've heard the names of some of them. Maya Angelou, Alice Walker, James Baldwin, all kinds of wonderful names, incredible people. Teachers, everything you can imagine. But there were those who were teaching and writing that are not talked about. The first Black woman doctor was practicing medicine in during slavery. And she worked with women and children. We don't hear about her. You see, if you're going to do Black history or anybody's history, we really need to have a much better sense of presenting some of the old stuff, not just about slavery. Not just about coming over on the boat, who survived and who didn't. And all of that is its own truth, and it's painful. But then there were those who came above it. What was happening in Ohio wasn't happening in Mississippi. You see, you get out of those particular states, you get a whole different condition of people. And of course, one of my favorites is, I always address him as Mr. George Carver. George Washington Carver. An amazing man. But then again, I put him up there with my father. And another amazing man. And the only reason you know about him is because I tell you about it. And I don't tell you half the things that my father was capable of doing and did them every day. So I just wanted to share just little bits and pieces. I came prepared with 9,000 pages. Yay!
And you have 2 minutes.
And I have 2 minutes. So what I want to say to you is this, that just remember that what you can imagine, what you can feel within you and imagine, you can do. And it doesn't matter who you are. It really doesn't. But when you can feel it and see it, know you can do it, do not doubt you, and you move forward towards it, you will reach it. My mother saw us leaving Mississippi, came out to California for a month, came back and said, we're leaving. She was serious about that. It was a great thing. My mother had great intuition, and she wanted to have something happen greater for us than what we were doing. So imagination is about creating reality. Don't think it's like woohoo, like let's turn on and see what's on channel right now. That's that kind of imagination. But the one we're talking about is the one that helps you to fulfill your life. And you do that from a conscious, imaginative, believing in you state of being every day. Thank you. Oh, that one's yours.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, that's pretty sexy, exchanging masks,
Whoa.
Woohoo!
I tell you, we'll have to think about that.
Now, would you like your water back?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Thank you for the water.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir. I always love it. I love hearing Joyce C. Brown speak. How many years have I known you, Joyce? 45?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just about that. Yeah, We met, of course, under unusual circumstances, and we've known it. We keep going on with unusual circumstances. It's fun to have somebody that remembers you when. Okay. One of the things that I would like to mention, talking about unusual circumstances, is that we need more people to sign up to speak. We have, if you've got something you want to say, talk to Corky, because we want to hear from you. We don't want to just keep repeating the same speakers, mainly because you are very important to us, and everybody has a story. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to somebody, everybody has a story.
Sherry's speaking next week.
Sherry's speaking.
Yay!
Yeah, and Annie's speaking
March 20th.
March 20th. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking about Wonder Girl. Isn't that fun? Yeah, so we got all these things coming up. Don't forget to take your program with you.
And Chris will be speaking.
And Chris is going to be speaking. You need to get together with Corky. She lost,
but I don't know where it is.
she couldn't find what you sent her, okay?
I need to talk to you.
Look out, Chris. I think you're gonna have to come to her. She heard me this morning, so she's waiting for. Hey, everybody wants to talk to Corky. Go grab her, okay? This is a time when we're gonna have a short meditation by our wonderful Reverend Ann Corbin, and this is a prayer for each one of you to join in with when she has you close your eyes. We found that prayer seems to feel better when your eyes are closed. So, Annie, if you'd like to come up and lead us in a prayer.
I wasn't ready for a guided meditation.
No, it's not. It's a prayer.
You know, we get some amazing messages here, and we have amazing messages all the time. And we have a lot of people in our community and around the world that are going through some challenges right now that needs our love, because we are the light of the world. So let's take a moment, let's take a nice deep breath in as we close our eyes. And let's breathe in love, light, prosperity, consciousness, all the wonderful things that life brings to us, whether we remember it or recognize it at this moment or not. And then as we breathe out, let's breathe out everything that's challenging right now. People who are looking for homes, people who are dealing with health challenges. Let's recognize that we can let that go and just breathe it out with a big And let's breathe in one more time and breathe out. And we ask our Mother, Father, God, and Creator to come and join us in this energy right here and right now. And actually, the Creator is always with us. Mother, Father, God is Creator. It's always with us. It runs in and through us at every moment and every time. And we give thanks. We give thanks for you, Creator. We give thanks for your love. We give thanks for our lives. We give thanks for this very day. And we give thanks for our opportunity to be together, whether we are together physically or we are together virtually, or just together in holding out our hands to Spirit and knowing that we are one and connected. Creator, you help us recognize that all the time. Thank you for opening us all up to our own consciousness and to finding our solutions, because you know you're going to lead us down the right path. We trust in your love. We trust in your guidance. And as we follow that, we are within our own consciousness, our own love, our own higher self. And we are so grateful for that all the time. And as we go out in this day and we share that love with those that are in this room, we carry that with us and we bring it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And we give thanks again and again and again for your presence in our life, Creator, and for your guidance and for your love. And as we live within ourselves, as we bring peace with ourselves, as we recognize the community is just part of being one, as we give honor to our Mother Earth, and as we do everything that is within our hearts, and we are open, We know, Creator, that you are helping us with that, and you are part of us and within us. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it is. Blessed be. Amen.
Okay. And you can grab the basket while you're standing. Multi-talented, this is the time that we pass the basket. And we want to thank you so much for the donations that you made to the Center for Creative Living. It takes us through the month. We're doing very well. I saw our wonderful Dr. Eileen. Reverend Eileen, anything you want to share today?
Well, actually, yes.
Come on up. Come on up.
Hello.
Hi. Look at you. Short hair and all.
Yes, the braids are gone. I mean, they needed to go. It actually took me almost 18 hours to unbraid my hair.
Oh, wow.
Because of the fact that I had left it in long enough for it to start to dreadlock. And if anybody knows what that means, it means cocoa butter and doing like this for about a half an hour. So anyway, first off, my apologies for being late. I'm filling in as a pastor for another church, and their service ends at 11 normally. So it's like, okay, I can run over here. But they started 20 minutes late because their Ed, and it was today that I realized, Ed, how amazing you are.
Yes.
Because their Ed wasn't able to make it and was trying to explain over the phone how to set up a Zoom call, how to do the audio, how to do the video, how to do everything. So much love to you, Ed. And please never get sick. So it has been a very exciting time. I was asked, for those of you who don't know, I was doing community theater over in Campbell, and the director of the community theater informed me that he works with the Negro Ensemble Company in New York, who perform off-Broadway plays.
Wow.
And he was working with a playwright, and he said that he could not think of anybody more perfect for the lead female role but me.
Whoa.
Yes! I auditioned, and the playwright, who had basically veto power, he wanted a woman in New York to perform the part. So we auditioned on Zoom, and he wasn't able to be there, but he watched the recording, and Flo said that he saw me, and at first he saw the other lady. He goes, okay, we can work with this. And then Flo said, well, let me show you Eileen. And he said, who is she? And he explained I was an actress from the Bay Area, and he couldn't think of anybody better. And the playwright said, she knocked it out of the park. I don't know who she is, but I want her in my play. I've signed the contracts, and I will be performing off-Broadway in the first week in May. It was supposed to be about the third week in May, but they changed the schedule, so I will be leaving August. In August, I have to be there August 18th. We start technical rehearsals on the 19th. I'll have wardrobe and makeup and all kinds of stuff. And I will be performing on the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th in New York.
Wait, what month? Just say May.
Oh, in May. May 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will be the performances.
In 2023.
2022.
This coming May.
This coming May.
Yes.
In August.
Oh my God.
Oh, she confused.
It's been a time. April 18th, I will be there. And we will be performing, and the performance will be coming to California in June. So we will be either performing in San Francisco, or we will be in LA, or there's a possibility that it will be both. So prayers are definitely appreciated. And I have set up a GoFundMe. because I will be in New York for 21 days, and New York ain't a cheap place to stay. So, and then covering, as I'm self-employed, I'll be needing to cover my expenses that I will miss after losing 3 weeks of work. So I placed and thank you, Annie, thank you. And for anybody who does feel called to support, thank you so much. And if you can't, then prayers for me to just remember all my lines, but yeah, I may not be leaving today, but I'm gonna see the very heart of it, New York, New York.
And we knew her before she became famous.
Yay! Okay, here at CCL, we are taking donations that we can just give as a bulk to, and Eileen, GoFundMe charges money. We're going to be giving you some money that you don't have to pay a fee to get, okay? I talked to a couple of people. I got one person who's ready to donate $500 to you. You don't even know. And I'm so glad to say that we had so much money for our move. And with all the people that helped us, we didn't have to use all the money we budgeted. So CCL is giving her $1,000.
Well, I gave you GoFundMe, but I paid extra to make sure that she didn't have to pay.
Oh, good.
Yay!
So we want to thank you all so very much for being here, and that's why the minute I saw her walk in, I went, oh, hey, look at who's here. So we want to thank you. All of you have a program, hopefully, on the back reading the Sacrament of Giving. This is where we give it to Eileen and people like that. Giving to the ministry from which you receive your spiritual support and nurturing is an affirmation and consciousness of the truth that Spirit is a prospering power enriching every area of our lives. And so it is. So it is. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ronnie, for being here. Thank you to all the support crew from the Leader Frank Center. And of course, wonderful Joyce C. Brown. Thank you so and lemons! And don't forget, we've got lemons. We have lemons, and we have cheesecake, and we have bananas. Banana! Stick around and have coffee and chat.